Right after I uploaded a video talking about the Joker, someone left a comment on my channel asking me to do a review of a movie called Cuck. Turns out he was wrong. The title of the movie is actually Cuck, and it is an experience. I don't really know which to use to describe it. Uh, I guess maybe the best word I would use it is a little bit of a political hit piece, I guess you could say. Or like a cinematic hit piece. It might be a new term. Maybe someone else used the term before, but basically, it is a fictionalized account of an alt-right young man. By the way, I'm gonna spoil this entire movie. By the way, just so you guys know, the whole movie is about to get spoiled. Anyhow, so it's basically a film about a young man named Ronnie who is ultra conservative, who's really angry about the world. He gets a bad shake in pretty much everything he does. He's unemployed, he really can't do much, has no skills. He wants to join the army, but he's clearly fat and overweight. That's redundant. But he's out of shape, I think is more the word I was looking for. But he lives alone with his mom and spends most of his time watching internet porn and looking up conservative or looking alt right. Maybe you can call alt right. It really wasn't alt right material he was absorbing, but like ultra conservative far right politics. He's shy and awkward. He wants to find a girl to be with, but he kind of has pretty misogynistic, dare I say, backwoods views. I wouldn't even say backwards. I mean, he kind of awful views on women. He doesn't. I mean, he does. I will say. Well, I mean, before I get to praising the movie, I mean, he doesn't really have the best perspective on women. At least he doesn't portray himself as having the best perspective on women in his videos, because, as it turns out, he goes on to become an old far conservative or far right, I guess, YouTuber. I mean, this site is clearly a stand-in for YouTube, but it wasn't actually YouTube in the movie. Basically, we'll just call him a YouTuber, just for the sake of understanding. He basically becomes an alt-right YouTuber, and he gets catapulted into internet stardom. Not really. He just kind of becomes mildly popular, or pretty goodly popular. Like, people pretty much recognize him. So it's actually kind of really hard to really go into this movie and talk about this movie without spoiling everything. The movie, in the way of a plot, isn't really too much. It isn't really too complex. Aren't very many twists and turns. In fact, it's ridiculously predictable. Everything I thought was going to happen absolutely did happen. There is only one element in the movie that did come out of kind of nowhere to me, and that was the fact that at one point in the movie, which actually is one of the most important plot points, Ronnie does actually end up becoming cucked. And I don't know if I'm introducing this too early into the movie review or too late, but that is actually a very important and ironic thing that happened. So the basic story is Ronnie has a bad life. The movie shows us that. Ronnie eventually tries to apply for a job and fails, but he meets this middle-aged woman. I wouldn't even call her middle-aged. I think she's probably pushing 50. And she is a prostitute, or a porn star, rather. I mean, it's not, the only real difference is that a camera is present, so. And she convinces Ronnie to become her cuck. And because Ronnie doesn't have a job, he decides to do it. And he ends up being a cuck in the movies that she is selling for her website. And so while all of this stuff is happening in Ronnie's life, is breaking apart more and more and more. Random things happen that piss Ronnie off, so he makes YouTube videos about them, and he gets some views. Ronnie eventually ends up going to a conservative convention, and he meets his idol. I forget his name, but we'll just call him Le Mustache. He meets Le Mustache, and they talk to each other, and I guess he kind of incites that he'll help Ronnie, or he'll be there for Ronnie. I don't really fucking know. But eventually what happens is Ronnie is revealed to be the cuck that he is, like a literal cuck. He then is exposed on the internet, and after Ronnie tried his best to convince the hooker that he fell in love with to be with him, she rejects him. That actually kind of happened before, or these all kind of happened around the same time, actually. So the long and short of it is, Ronnie ends up grabbing a pistol that he bought from his only friend, and he shoots a couple of people. And that's the movie. He ends up getting shot and killed by the police at the end of the movie, but Ronnie dies in the end. So, what exactly is there to say about this film? Because I have a lot of disjointed thoughts, but I don't really have a way to put them together coherently. Because the movie isn't really the most garbage piece of filth I've ever seen, but it's not really the strongest and most accurate portrayal I think of these type of killers or these type of people that you would ever want. The movie does in general play off as a little bit of a parody or a little out of touch with the reality of how these people actually are. And some of the events in the movie are so left field, it's not really relatable to anyone. I don't really know exactly what the point of this movie was. I don't know if this point of the point of the movie was to show us the slow burn of Ronnie turning into someone evil, but Ronnie was never really a good person. The movie does a really, really poor job of making you feel bad for Ronnie, and I'm not sure if that is supposed to be the case or if the movie failed at doing this. But nothing Ronnie does is even kind of slightly a little bit understandable. Ronnie is a very angry person. He flies off the handle quite a bit. Ronnie is just totally unlikable. There's nothing redeeming about him, and it seems, and that's kind of one of the reasons why it seems like this movie is kind of more. I wouldn't go as far to say a parody, because a parody is more purposeful, but definitely like slander or like, political like mudslinging on these guys, or these fat chubby guys who get angry on the internet, or these fat far right guys, or these MGTOW guys, or these red pill guys, whatever. It seems the movie is heavily criticizing these type of people as fat, unemployed, basically neats who are ridiculously angry, have poor views on women, and it doesn't really give anyone, or give Ronnie more than anything, a fair shake. The movie does seem to be a straight hit piece, and it's just trying to insult these people or paint these people out to be bad, rather than actually have a nuanced or even kind of halfway interesting look into their thoughts. But one of the biggest issues that I find with the movie, and why I really don't understand its point, is because while the movie does sometimes kind of play off of internet forums that I have personally seen on the internet, where I can see how someone could pull a character like Ronnie out from the internet, there are certain aspects of the movie that happen that are just too left field for it to honestly be relatable, and just kind of destroys your suspension of disbelief. For example, Ronnie lives alone with his mom, but his mom is like ridiculously old. I don't know if his mom is so sick that it's taken a tax on her body, or if this woman is like legitimately about 75 to 80 years old. This woman has to be pushing 75. If not, her body was just obliterated by the fact that she smokes or whatever. But she's just way too old. And maybe some people live alone with their mom that is just this old and decrepit. I don't know. But one thing that is a very clear element in this movie is that Ronnie's mom does treat him like a pseudo lover, and it's not. She's very possessive of him like a pseudo lover. Now, it is an interesting thing to look at. I will admit, the relationship that some single mothers have with their sons. Like some single mothers can sometimes try to use their son as like a pseudo husband, which is the best way I can articulate it, and it kind of would require its own video to get into. But it is a phenomenon I can recognize can happen. But because it's a phenomenon that isn't really explored too much, and I don't even think it's a phenomenon most people, especially who are in this sphere that the movie is trying to criticize or at least portray, can really like resonate with their mom harboring these kind of incestuous thoughts about them. The movie just doesn't really feel like it can relate to anyone, because you have something as outlandish as that. Which again isn't to say that subconsciously some women do treat their sons like this. I'm sure they do. I could talk about that some other time, but again, I think it's so specific, or at least it's so on the nose, that I don't think a lot of people could really co-sign with it. Again, for example, this might be even the best example of why I don't feel like this movie is truly representative of the people that it's trying to represent, and that is the fact that Ronnie ends up becoming a literal cuck. Now, it is really ironic, and it's actually kind of funny. I mean, the movie is called Cuck, but it never dawned on me that the main character would literally become a cuck. I just thought that the movie was supposed to be a play on the insult that is used oftentimes by these people, which that is part of the critique of the movie. By the way, Ronnie does ironically call lots of other people a cuck, but doesn't want to refer to himself as such, which I'm pretty sure, again, was a point in the movie. I don't even know if it was done very well, because most of the people who are using the word cuck don't actually mean that they're being cuckolded, that they're raising another man's son, nor do they mean that they're watching another man have sex with a woman they're attracted to, but it means that you're weak and effeminate, and you're gonna allow people to mistreat you and mishandle you in some particular way. That's how people use the word cuck normally on the internet. So to actually have Ronnie actually be a cuck to this old middle-aged woman and her pimp, well, I guess her husband pimp, whatever, it's not really like this much of a difference, is just way too outlandish. It's just, and to have him lose his virginity to this woman, because that happens, is still outlandish. If you're trying to paint these guys as incel neats, and then you can't give him a plot line where he falls in love with a prostitute and thinks that the power of his love and his chivalry will save her from herself, which again is actually something that is relatable to a lot of young men. Don't you fucking pretend that you've never thought that if you love the woman enough you could save her from her own bullshit. Don't you do it. Don't you fucking do it. You know you felt it. I know you have. But now, while that might be a pretty relatable element, the fact that the woman was a prostitute, on the other hand, that's still way too outlandish. And I just think that that by having an element like that in the movie, it pushes it too far away from its relatability point. You know, I was actually sitting here thinking about this, and I might actually have to do this, but like really revisit this movie and revisit the Joker after I watched that a few more times, and really kind of compare and contrast why did the Joker movie resonate so much with people and why Cuck probably never could. I mean, to be fair, the Joker had like billions of dollars of advertisement put into it, at least millions, and Cuck only had like a fucking YouTube ad ran once. I mean, someone found it, they linked me to it. So, I mean, obviously more people are going to have, like, more of their hands on the Joker, obviously, because of advertisement. But Cuck, interestingly enough, was released, like, 2 days after the Joker, and it is very similar in the vein of trying to be a character study, but I think it fails miserably, mostly because of what I said earlier, and why I think the Joker is so successful in character study is because of how feasible and relatable a lot of the Joker is, despite the fact that it's about a comic book villain. But that's kind of its own thing, and I'll try to make a video like that sometime in the future. Probably when like the DVD version of Joker comes out, so I can actually get some clips and compare and contrast, but whatever, don't quote me on that. To specifically talk about Cuck, though, I think the reason why no one could really resonate with this movie, again, it's not just because of the uniquely fictional and specific things that happens, like falling in love with the hooker and having your mom having sexual thoughts about you, but it's the fact that Ronnie is just so fucking damn unlikable. There's nothing redeeming about this guy. There's nothing about... You don't want to see Ronnie succeed in any capacity at all. You don't even want to see him, like, become an interesting YouTuber, because all he does is like make half, like, even there are moments in the movie, and actually this is a good segue to this portion as well, but there are moments in the movie where you'll see Ronnie's actually recording his rants, right? And the thing that is really crazy about the fact that Ronnie is recording these rants is the fact that he never actually really makes any like coherent point, but it sounds like a mishmash gargle mesh of like everything you would have heard on a Red Pill forum, or like on the Manosphere YouTube, like on our YouTube channels, right, throughout the Manosphere. It's like the most extreme, nasty, mashed up gargle point of that. And it just isn't believable, not only because of someone who's like absorbed this content and even produced this content for years, but also because it just sounds fucking absurd and just sounds like the rambling of a child. So I don't see how anyone can reasonably take it seriously. Not only just because I am lay intellectual, but I just like in terms of a random moviegoer watching this movie, it just sounds incredibly outlandish. But the thing about so-called Red Pill or MGTOW or even incel rhetoric is that no matter how you slice it, no matter how angry that shit goes, if you want to create a believable character, you have to acknowledge, you have to admit that these guys have a fucking point. Ronnie ends up going on a date with this one, actually I don't know if she was Asian, maybe she was Canadian, I don't fucking know. The point is, he goes on this date with this one woman, and it is a cringe-tastic fest that is every incel meme from Incel Tears or whatever the fuck part of YouTube you want ever thrown in there. But see, the thing is, it plays off too cringily. Like, there's no hope. Like, the whole date is this nasty, garbage mess of a guy who can't really relate to a woman or really doesn't have anything to say to a woman. The mere fact that he even got the date with her only clearly serves just to get to this scene in the movie, because there's nothing redeeming about this guy that he could have put on his fucking in his Plenty of Fish profile, like nothing at all. But we get to this point in the movie just so we could have a triggered feminist scene get upset at the fact that he used the word pussy. And to have a part in the movie where a bunch of white knights like kick Ronnie's butt and kick him out of the store. But the scene only exists just to show that Ronnie is bad with women rather than actually showing us that Ronnie is trying or caring, or showing us that Ronnie can be charming or do anything apart from the fact that it just paints Ronnie as just looking terrible. Every element of the movie just paints Ronnie as looking like he's inept, kind of stupid, does everything in his power to fuck up points in his life. And here's the thing, there are certainly people who are like that, but no one wants to spend any amount of time in a movie watching them unless there's some kind of point beyond, hey, these people are bad. And at the end of the day, that's kind of the only takeaway you can get from Cuck is, hey, these people are bad. But did a whole movie need to be produced to show us this lonely fat man falling in love with a prostitute who goes on a killing spree to tell us that these people are kind of bad? Honestly, I would have to say, no. No, not really. No, I don't think we really needed this movie. The movie plays way too much off as like a half-baked parody. It's not funny. It's an over-dramatization of what I imagine the director or writer feels is accurate to these alt-right guys, or accurate to the MGTOW guys, or accurate to the ultra-conservative guys, or wherever the fuck you want to put Ronnie at. I don't know, and I don't really care. The point is, it's not accurate no matter where you want to put him at. It's just not accurate to him. More than that, the movie is far too outlandish and specific for it to honestly be relatable. The movies, I'm not even going to talk about the cinematography and all the camera work. I mean, that's never really been important to me. What has always been more important to me is the acting and the story and the characters and the main ideas that are being presented. And if those aren't told very well, I mean, you know, shot, reverse shot, camera work, I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. I know some people do, but I don't. I'm more like story oriented and performance based, and the performances aren't not bad at all. There is one very, very, very weak performance from the one Asian chick girl I mentioned, but overall the acting is pretty solid. I mean, there's nothing to take home about, but it's not really bad. But the story itself just doesn't. It leaves much to be desired. It's too of a much of a gargled mesh of what they believe is the worst aspects of these people, but nothing that's truly, you know, redeemable or caring. And the movie tries to paint itself out to be some kind of tragedy, or at least I think it was trying to paint itself out to be a tragedy of Ronnie's life, but it only ever showed the worst aspects of who Ronnie was, so you could never really root for him or never really hope for him to get better. At the end of the movie, it tries to play this one clip that Ronnie took at the beach where he was all happy and explaining that things were going well in his life. I don't really know if the point of this was to show us that Ronnie was thinking that he was getting better or whatever. Or if the movie was just trying to get some last minute pathos from us when we see his dead body. But at the end of the day, I just don't think it works because it came way too fucking late. This happy-go-lucky Ronnie who's actually accomplishing things, which we know the truth of it was, he really wasn't. But this happy-go-lucky Ronnie that he made a video of saying that he was accomplishing something comes in at the end of the movie. As in, literally, before the credits roll, we see a happy Ronnie. Like, why would I feel bad about this tragedy now after I just witnessed this dickhead be a dickhead the entire movie and be happy for all of 30 seconds? Like, I don't know if the editor realized that or if the director realized that, but no one is going to resonate with this character. And I don't know if the point was to make us resonate with the character or if the point was to make us say, hey, this is a really bad dickhead. Maybe we should worry about these alt-right guys, or maybe we should worry about these incel guys, or maybe we should worry about these ultra-conservative incel guys, whatever the hell you want to, I don't know. I don't even know what Ronnie would call himself. I really don't. But at the end of the day, I have to say that this movie is a really strong 4 out of 10. I only say it's a 4 out of 10 specifically just based on its production value. I mean, obviously some money was put into it, but otherwise, if this was like a regular B movie, I'd have to give this movie probably about a good 2 out of 10. The acting is solid, but I don't really get its point. I think its story is far too predictable. I knew everything that was going to happen from the moment I saw the trailer, so thanks for that. And I don't really get the ultimate message that the movie is trying to give us, because if the ultimate message is to tell us that bad guys are bad and that these alt-right nasty angry guys, you know, are irredeemable dickheads who are going to end up killing people, then I have to say, one, I scoff in your general direction at your complete lack of faith in humanity, but two, I mean, no one needed you to make this movie for you to say some shit like that. We already have internet memes. So, should you watch Cucked? I mean, as a pure look into the parody or the misrepresentation of these guys, I would say it is an interesting watch, but for any degree of enjoyment or any like serious character development into guys like this, you don't need to touch this movie. With that being said, I should hope you guys got something out of today's video, and if you did, man, go and click the like button. I should go and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.